Hello, and welcome to a new ASMR video. Today, I am sitting here filming with a hot cup of tea and 8 books to review with you. Over here, I have 2 piles. 4 books that I have read, and 4 books that I have not read. And I have so many books that I have yet to read because I can never help myself when I go into a bookstore. And I have this pile in the corner of my room that's just slowly growing with books I have yet to dive into. And I'm just going to be occasionally taking a sip of this cup of chai tea I have. And I'm a little sad today because it's raining, and I don't know how a lot of you feel, but I love the sound of rain. I feel like it's so relaxing to fall asleep to. And I actually was going to crack a window open so you could kind of hear it in the background of this video, but it just happens that I have a birdhouse in my backyard. And there are a bunch of baby birds in there right now that are going absolutely nuts. So that was a little distracting, so I figured I better close it, which is a shame because it sounded so nice. So I think I will start off with the have read pile. And what I'm going to do is, well, I guess this is a bad example, but I will kind of tell you a little bit about the book. I will read the back for you, tell you the author, and obviously I have enjoyed all 4 of these books. And let's begin. So this I picked up quite a while ago and just recently finished because it is a collection of stories about unnatural creatures. And I picked this book up because what really draws my eye to a book is the cover. And I just thought this cover was very pretty. Unnatural creatures. Stories selected by Neil Gaiman. Yes, that's how you say it, Gaiman. And I'm not sure exactly how many stories are in here. Let's see if it says. There's 16, as you can see here. And I thought they were very interesting, as, I don't know, the unnatural world kind of interests me a lot. And a couple books actually. I try to vary the books I'm showing you, but the majority of my have-reads are very fictional. So I will read you the back. A griffin, a werewolf, a sunbird. These are just some of the fantastical creatures you'll encounter within these pages. From the cockatoucan, whose laugh rearranges an entire kingdom, to the roving and shapeless beast that lurks in a forest. Herein is a collection of rare and magnificent species. each one will thrill, delight, and quite possibly unnerve you. Selected by master storyteller Neil Gaiman, the 16 stories in this Unnatural will introduce you to a host of strange and wonderful beings that have never existed anyplace but in the richness of imagination. With stories from Neil Gaiman, Diana Lloyd-Jones, E. Nesbitt, and many more, Unnatural Creatures will benefit Literacy Nonprofit 826 DC. And I just love the cover art. I think it fits so well with the theme of the book. There's actually, I don't know what this is, I have to clean it off. But, a little stain. And it is a rather big book. Full of all these stories. And I quite enjoyed it. So this is the first book I have read. Put that to the side. Now the next book is fiction, and it is actually part 3 of a trilogy, and I have another trilogy. Actually, no, there's more in this, but this one's the first book in the series. I'm afraid this one is not. I do not have the first book in hardcover. I read it. No, not on my Kindle, but my friend gave it to me to read because she was the one who recommended it to me. And that first one is called Ruby Red. You can kind of tell the pattern of the titles. There's Ruby Red. The second one is Sapphire Blue, which I have. And then this is Emerald Green. And this is by a German author, Kerstin Gier. And the books are out, or they came out first in their first language. And there's also a movie that came out in Germany. So if you speak German and enjoy this book, you should definitely check that out. But I have not. But I still watched the trailer, and I think it did justice. And again, I thought the cover art was super pretty on this book. And I guess I'll read you the description, even though it might be a little confusing. She lives in London, and there's kind of some time travel going on. I don't know exactly how to explain what this book reminds me of, but I love the female character. The female characters of a book always draw me in. I like when they are very independent. The main character's name is Gwen. Gwen has a destiny to fulfill, but no one will tell her what it is. She's only recently learned that she's the Ruby, the final member of 12 time traveling. And since then, nothing has been going right. She suspects the founder of the circle, Count Saint Germain, is up to something nefarious, but nobody believes her. And she's just learning that her charming time-traveling partner Gideon has probably been using her all along. The stunning conclusion picks up where Sapphire Blue left off, reaching new heights of intrigue and romance as Gwen finally uncovers the secrets a time-traveling society and learns her fate. I think I kind of messed up reading it around this part, and I apologize. I get a little distracted while reading, but I don't know if this interests you or not, but I definitely found it interesting, and it's actually one of the most different books I have read, because normal, I guess you could call it teen fiction, you can always kind of guess where it's going, but this definitely surprised me. And I have it bookmarked and a page. I haven't read this in a while. It's been a while, but I did enjoy it. Now, the third book is the first book in the series, and there is definitely more than 3, but I can't remember exactly how many. The most recent one came out at about September of this year, and I think this is one of my absolute favorite series. I kind of despise. This is compared to Game of Thrones and Hunger Games, and I kind of really dislike when people compare such high standard books to other things, and I personally like this a lot better than both of those, but Hunger Games just doesn't interest me that much in general. Game of Thrones is interesting, but I like this one. Probably because, as I said before, I have a sweet spot for strong female characters. And Selena is definitely one of them. This book is actually rather beat up. Yes, I definitely read this, I'd say a good 2 years ago. Sounds right. In a world without magic, an assassin is summoned to the castle. She comes not to kill the vicious king who rules from his throne of glass, but to win her freedom. If she defeats 23 killers, thieves, and warriors in a competition, she will be released from prison to serve as the king's champion. Her name is Selena Sardothian. The crown prince will provoke her, the captain of the guard will protect her, and a princess from a faraway land will befriend her. But something evil dwells in the castle, and it's there to kill. While her competitors start dying, one by one, Selena's fight for freedom becomes a fight for survival, and a desperate quest to root out the evil before it destroys her world. And I think this line up here is a little cheesy. 2 men love her. There is a slight love triangle, which I think a lot of people agree is quite annoying when the author adds that in. But it's bearable, definitely bearable. And I think the series definitely gets a lot better as it goes along. Obviously, there's a lot of magic and fae references, and a lot of the names kind of go along that theme, and I really much enjoyed it, as I have said before, and I was surprised because I'm normally not a huge fan of books like this, but I would recommend it if you have an interest in fantasy worlds. So, the next or final book I have read is actually realistic fiction, and it is called The View from Who I Was by Heather Sappenfield. On the side there's a bunch of snow, crystallized water, very close up, and it's very pretty. And again, there's kind of a dramatic line at the top. And it always kind of loses my liking when books do that, but I still think it's a good book. There's actually a couple different books I've read that kind of remind me of this. I think the title was 13 Reasons Why. It was definitely popular, but the main character does not die. I don't want to spoil much, but that kind of, you learned that in the beginning. So there is one difference. In this, oh, hang on, I don't think I mentioned the author of Throne of Glass, but it is Sarah J. Maas. I apologize for that. So this one is by Heather Sappenfield. It's kind of a short book, but it's a good story. And the back reads, "Pain is like water. It comes in different forms. On a cold Colorado night, Una on Tombs leaves Crystal High's winter formal, walks deep into the woods, and lies down in the snow to die. She awakens in the hospital, suffering from the effects of frostbite and hypothermia. But her physical injuries aren't nearly as painful as the wound she can't name, the one she feels cutting deep into the core of who she is. While recovering from her suicide attempt, Una discovers that the roots of her problems go beyond herself. To fully understand what happens that night in the woods, she must confront not only her own pain, but the hidden past that's suffocating someone she loves. The View from Who I Was is a story of the damage that can be passed down through generations and the healing that can arise from tragedy. And I was unsure when I saw this book in the store, but what I always do is open to kind of the front page and read a little bit, and if it does not immediately draw me in, back on the shelf. But I believe this one drew me in. Well, obviously it did. Yeah. It was uniquely written, and I quite, again, enjoyed it. And these are all kind of my personal preference. You can probably tell by now I like kind of realistic fiction-ish sub-stories, I guess you can say. Not a huge fan of romantic. There has to be a lot of action involved for me to enjoy a good couple, and these two books definitely had that. So those are the 4 books I have recently read I wanted to share with you, and I will move on to the 4 I have not. So obviously I cannot say as much for these next 4 books. And again, covers are definitely a big part of why I have picked out these from the shelf of many at my local bookstore. This is I'll Give You the Sun, and there are actually a couple by Jandy that had pretty covers, but I chose this one because I thought it was the most interesting story. And I actually have read a little, like 5 pages of this book, and it is book number 2. So, I can say from what I have read, it's pretty interesting. I feel like I've used that word a lot in this video, and I apologize if it's annoying, but it encapsulated my attention, I'll say. And here's the description. Judy and her twin brother Noah are incredibly close. At 13, isolated Noah dresses constantly and is falling in love with the charismatic boy next door, while daredevil Jude clicked eyes and wears red lipstick and does the talking for the both of them. But 3 years later at 16, Jude and Noah, are barely speaking. Something has happened to wreck the twins in different and dramatic ways, until Jude meets a cocky, broken, beautiful boy, as well as someone else, an even more unpredictable new force in her life. The early years are Noah's story to tell. The later years are Jude's. What the twins don't realize is that they each have only half the story. And if they could just find their way back to each other, they'd have a chance to remake their world. So, I hope that this book lives up to other astounding reviews. And, I don't know, all of these books are kind of different from what I normally read. I'm now just getting into the realistic fiction, because I have read nearly all the good kind of action fictional stuff, so hopefully this is good, and if it interests you, give it a shot. The next book I have read a little bit of as well, not too much. I think about a chapter, even though this is a rather short book for what I normally read. But it is called Gracefully, Grayson. This is by Amy Polonsky. Grayson Sunder has been holding onto a secret for what seems like forever. He is a girl on the inside, born into the wrong gender's body. The weight of the secret is crushing, but sharing it would mean facing ridicule, scorn, rejection, or worse. Despite the risks, Grayson's true self itches to break free. Will new strength and support from unexpected places be enough to help Grayson step into the spotlight she was born to inhabit? Then there's a bit about the author. So, I'm betting this is the start of just a ton of books on the topic, because transgender has finally become more accepted. And I actually just randomly pulled this out from the shelf again. I like the cover. So, I like where the story's going. Hopefully it's written well enough. And it is very short, so these books can either be really good or really bad. That's why I tend to stay away from short books, but I have read many that managed to fit a very good story in just a small amount of pages. Now the next book, I honestly cannot tell you why I picked this up. Probably because the work of art on here drew me in. But, I don't know, I guess it looks nice on my shelf. This is called Egg and Spoon by Gregory Maguire. And he's the author of Wicked, which I'm actually not a huge fan of. So I should have seen it coming. And I've had this book for quite some time. And I possibly read the first chapter. I don't want to say I'm not interested in it because I haven't even given it a fair chance. So hopefully I will end up reading it. But actually, I've had it so long I've used it to press flowers. And you can see between random pages, there are actually a bunch of these little flowers and leaves. So I'll have to clear that out before I read it. But I will read you the description. Elena Rodina lives in the impoverished, there we go, Russian countryside. Her father has been dead for years. One of her brothers has been conscripted into the Tsar army, and the other taken as a servant in the house of the local landowner. I'm so bad at reading today. Her mother is dying slowly in their tiny cabin, and there is no food. But then a train arrives in the village, a train carrying untold wealth, a cornucopia of food, and a noble family on their way to visit the Tsar in St. Petersburg, a family that includes Ekaterina, a girl of Elena's age. When two girls' lives collide, an adventure is set in motion, an escapade that includes mistaken identity, a monk locked in a tower, a prince traveling incognito, and, in a starring role only Gregory Maguire could have conjured, a wisecracking Baba Yaga, witch of Russian folklore, in her ambulatory house, perched on chicken's legs. So that was quite different. Eventually, I'm guessing I will read it. So, if any of these books you have not read, leave your opinion. And then the last book I have, I actually picked up, I believe, last weekend. And I believe it recently came out. And I'm guessing it's pretty popular. I mean, this kind of book, this is more science fiction, I would say. This kind of book is getting increasingly popular. There's a couple more like it, like Life as We Knew It, with the moon kind of getting out of orbit. But this, I believe, is about a comet that will destroy Earth. And I was intrigued to see if this is noteworthy, but again, it's a very short description. Before our hour came, we let ourselves be defined by labels: the athlete, the slut, the slacker, the overachiever. But then we all looked up and everything changed. They said the asteroid would be here in 2 months. They gave us 2 months to leave our labels behind. 2 months to become something bigger than what we'd have been. Something that would last even after the end. 2 months to really live. So to me, this book kind of seems a bit of a cliche, but maybe it'll break that kind of stereotype I have of it. haven't read anything by this author before. So, I don't know if any of you have read it and liked it. Be sure to let me know. So that is it for my kind of book show and tell. I'm just kind of gonna lie them all out and finish up my tea. I have so many books. I have to figure out which ones I don't need anymore, or which ones I can donate, because I've had some, actually a lot, from about 3rd grade, and obviously I don't read those, or even like some of them much anymore. But I might later on do kind of a childhood book haul. Kind of share with you some of my favorite novels from when I was a kid. The hardcover books make the best tapping sounds. So thank you for joining me on this rainy day. And I'm sorry the birds wouldn't hush up enough for me to open with the sound of rain, but I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.